Every tax season, H&R Block allows clients to bring their tax information to be dropped off so they do not have to make an appointment to have their taxes completed. And while this is a great convenience that's offered, sometimes it can be a long process that can take the entire tax season. Now, sometimes clients don't necessarily mind that it has taken the entire season, but there are some that would rather have their information taken care of right away. Now, if we can't take care of their information right away, this can be detrimental and can cause regular clients to decide to go elsewhere if their taxes are not completed in a timely manner. Some research was needed to be done to see if there was a way to possibly increase the speed of how these drop-offs would be completed. Now, there were several things to consider, such as if the client would be affected, if the tax professional would be affected, if we're giving the best practice to the client, and if there could be other ways to complete the returns. Of course, H&R Block already utilizes their own software, so we would need to research to see how we could utilize that software further. What we ended up doing was looking at the information to see the current process of completing drop-offs, analyzing the benefits of completing drop-offs in a different manner, and creating suggestions for decreasing the time it takes to do the returns. When somebody does not have time to sit in the office, what they do is they bring their information to the office and leave it with a customer service professional. Once they have the information, they write down the client's name and the date they dropped it off on a drop-off log. After that's completed, the client's information is then placed in a cabinet to be worked on by the person that the client requested. Now, currently, clients have had to wait multiple days to have their taxes completed, and that can be really bad, especially since 1/5 of all Americans who filed their taxes in 2016 did so between April 8th and April 22nd. So typically, it shows that there are clients who wait until the last minute to complete their taxes. Now, the question is what can be done to fix that? One thing we would look at is to train specific people to work on the drop-offs. That way, that person will be able to answer any questions that the tax professional may have when it's time to submit the return. And this would also require us to train the clients to drop off all of their information. That way, we're not missing any information when it comes time to file their taxes. And another suggestion would be to obtain additional software to be able to read and sort the receipts to make the processing of tax returns quicker. And while this is a good idea, it would take a long time to obtain software that would be able to do that quickly and efficiently. So the question is what would be best? The first step that would need to be taken is to train 1 or 2 people to process the drop-offs as they come in. This would allow those who are trained to work on the receipts and the returns to bring it up to the point of completion. Once there, a tax professional will then be able to review the return, ask questions if needed, and then submit the return, allowing the process to be completed in a quicker manner. Some of the benefits for changing this process would be that it would be guaranteed that only one person will work on the drop-off. When a client drops off their information, it can be processed by whoever can get to it, unless they want a specific preparer. By changing this process, it will allow the preparer to handle any appointments that they may have and still be able to get credit for completing this return. The drop-offs will then be completed as they come in. Sometimes a drop off may be started but not completed, and then it's set to the side until a later date, and a return that came in later may be completed prior to this one being completed, and that is not a good thing to do. So when implementing this change, the person who starts the return will be able to work on it until it's ready to be completed. They'll be able to call the client if any information is missing. And this is where the suggestion of having two people working on drop-offs would be beneficial. As one is obtaining information from somebody else, the other one could be working on the drop-offs as well. And that will allow the returns to be completed in a timely manner. And that, by assigning one person to bring the return close to completion, it'll allow the return to be completed faster than if it was just left in the drawer waiting on information. Now, there are some risks involved with this, such as the client may not appreciate that someone else is completing their return. When a client drops off their information, they may request a specific person to complete the return, and if they don't like this setup, then that could make them want to go to another place to have their taxes filed. And also, clients who are in the waiting area may think that the person won't be able to help them, because they may look at that employee and think that they're not currently doing anything because they do not have anybody at their desk. And of course, that is not true, because they are working on a drop-off. So some suggestions to offer the way to change is to offer specific hours for drop-offs. By offering specific hours, it'll allow the business to schedule specific workers to complete the drop-offs. Limit the number of drop-offs per employee. By limiting the amount that each employee can perform, it'll be set up to ensure those employees are able to get the drop-offs done. We also need to make sure that the client leaves all necessary information. That will take some time, possibly even a couple tax seasons, to properly train the clients to drop off their information. Another suggestion is to allow the employees working on the drop-offs to have a specific desk. That can actually give the employee the sense of ownership. And when an employee takes ownership, they are more driven, more motivated, and take more initiative. You also want to make sure that there is enough employees hired and trained to handle the drop-offs. This can vary from year to year. However, if you pay attention to what's being dropped off and what's being returned, you will notice that you will need to hire some additional help in order to get that completed. And another suggestion is to allow only one email to be used to collect information. This will allow an employee to contact the client and suggest that they email information if we're missing information. And they can advise the one email address, and any employee working the drop-offs would have access to that email, and it will also assist in making sure that the information is not lost, something that could possibly be a problem if we lose the information. So in closing, changing the process will likely help in completing drop-off returns quicker than what they've been done in the past. And by successfully implementing these steps, you could possibly increase business, which we'll be able to use to cover the costs of hiring employees that complete the drop-off returns.